It's my first time at NACIS ever, and I'm nervous, but I'm very glad to be interacting with all the top brains in cartography. I am not a cartographer, strictly speaking, but I enjoy the work I do. And today, I'm going to talk about how land use change has diminished our savannah prairie in the southwest part of Wisconsin, which we're calling the Rountree Branch Watershed. So for those of you who don't know what a prairie is, these are just large expanses of grassland and mixed with forbs, and these were the dominant vegetation types pre-European settlement in the Midwest. Shown here is a map of the US with the location of the project. To bring us closer here, the University of Wisconsin-Platteville, where this project is located, is a primarily undergraduate institution and located within a rural area. So this research was conducted in the context of an undergraduate study. And one of the things the university is trying to do is to engage the local landowners more on land stewardship. So the other thing is this location is also part of the driftless. This is an unglaciated region that covers 4 states, so the southwest Wisconsin, the southeast Minnesota, the northeastern part of Iowa, and the northwestern part of Illinois. This is a very beautiful landscape, being unglaciated. It has a rolling topography, as we can see here. And we can also see how it illustrates how the land disregards our man-made boundaries. So one of the issues with the topography of this region is because of the human use, the land is prone to various challenges. And I've posted here a picture from the 1930s of advanced gully erosion, which was some of the issues that actually spurred conservation efforts in Wisconsin. Those of you who know the father of conservation, Leopold. And apart from that, we also have the increased risk of flooding. The area experiences a lot of flash floods. And now, because of conversion from the original vegetation to the current primary use, which is agriculture, we also have the disappearance of some species. So some species have actually been identified as either endangered or threatened. And I've put here an example of the beautiful pale purple cornflower. And apart from that, we also have issues of increased risk of contamination to the waters because of issues such as fertilizer application on the land. Shown here is a digital elevation model of the subwatershed. And as we can see here, in the belly is a very low area, a depression. This is an open mining location. I should mention that this area is also part of the historical lead and zinc mining district. And at the top here, we have the Platte Mound, which we call the Big M, because of the iconic letter M that is inscribed on the hillside. And this is a symbol of the mining history of the region. So as we can see here on the photo, this area is primarily agricultural. The reason we're calling this region a subwatershed is because the official watershed from the watershed boundary dataset by the USGS is actually the Middle Platte River, and that forms part of the Grant Upper Maquoketa Plum, which also forms part of the Upper Mississippi Maquoketa Plum, and that makes up part of the Upper Mississippi region, which borders the Great Lakes region. And the hydrologic unit code for that is 07. And as we can see here on the image, the source of the Mississippi up there as it begins its journey towards the Gulf. And this also makes the region significant in terms of its connectedness to the rest of the waters in other states and other regions. So what we did here was basically to map the land cover pre- and post-European settlement in this region, and also to extract the land ownership information. The reason that was important was because we have now issues of farm consolidation, and that and how that is affecting the family farms within the region. So we began by gathering all the tributaries of the stream, which we're calling the Rountree Branch, in order to visualize the full extent of the stream and to get our pour point. And using that, we were able to delineate the boundary of the watershed. And what we noticed here is some discrepancy between our sub-watershed and the official watershed that is provided by the USGS. These were just small discrepancies which we attributed to the fact that the LiDAR-derived DEM was of finer scale. So after we had our boundary, we then went ahead and got the original land cover, which was drawn from the General Land Office survey in 1838. And as we can see here, majority of the watershed was actually prairie. That was about 59% prairie, with some oak openings and some closed forests. But bearing in mind that this data was aggregated at coarse scale, we decided to use the witness trees. These were the trees that were recorded at the time of the survey in this region. And using the definition of oak openings, we applied a buffer. And as a result, the prairie area actually increased, and also the oak openings increased, but the closed forests decreased. So here we had around 66% of prairie. Next, we got images from the Robinson Library at University of Wisconsin-Madison. And then we georeferenced the images for all the years that I've listed here. And after that, we clipped and mosaicked the images and got these smooth maps of the subwatershed. And as I scroll through, you are going to see that there is increased adoption of conservation practices, such as the use of contours within the subwatershed. And after this, we vectorized the farms, and then we assigned each of the farms the different land cover, and were able to come up with land cover maps. So this is a map of 1940, and as you can see here, the upper portion of the subwatershed, which was previously prairie, is now almost all of cropland, with some strips of grasslands. And as I scroll through here, what you will see is that the strips are actually declining even more, and the urban area and the agricultural land is increasing. This is the situation in 2018, where we had just 12% of grassland. So you can see that huge decrease from 66 to 12% in 2018. So the other thing we did was get cadastral maps, and these are just parcel maps of with the ownership details within the subwatershed. And we acquired maps from public libraries that are within the watershed. And for all the years that I've listed here. And then similar to the area imagery, we also georeferenced this, but we used the public land survey quadrants because these were clearly marked on the cadastral maps. And after georeferencing, we again clipped and mosaicked these cadastral images, and then we were able to get a smooth map of the ownership within the subwatershed. And what we could observe here was that multiple parcels could actually make one farm or one field. And we also found that some owners had more than one field or one farm. We have collected a lot of data regarding this process, but our next step is to analyze the change in farm size and in the field patterns using software such as FragStats. We've also acquired a sensor to measure the river height within the subwatershed, because we know that the flow in the river can be affected by the different land cover types within the area. The other thing we're doing now is assessing soil erodibility using the ACPF, Agricultural Conservation Planning Framework, by the Department of Natural Resources in conjunction with the University of Madison. And so we're hoping that all these products are going to help us to engage better with the landowners. This brings me to the end of my talk, but before you ask your questions, I want to pose a question to you and ask, since I have the honor to do so, what would you suggest as the best way to use the products that we have to engage with the local landowners?
Sorry, this is kind of ironic because I've been talking to you all day about LiDAR data. Totally unrelated now. So my father works with a lot of landowners in southern Illinois, and a lot of his students have done similar research about historical land use in the area, right? And at some point, my dad thought it would be a good idea to show that historical data to the landowners to see what they thought, right? And surprisingly, actually, a lot of them have felt obligated to sort of rematriate the land, maybe not in complete ways because farms are profitable and all of that, but I would suggest that you try to publicly disseminate it because oftentimes people are willing to make more personal connections with the land that they own, and you might have success just in showing them that this land was different and it gave all of these various benefits to the watershed, right? So that's my suggestion, at least.
Thank you.
Is that in ours? Oh, okay, sorry. I'm going to riff off of what Jacob said because we're both from Illinois, so we can kind of respect regionally what this is talking about, I think. Where I'm from, there's a lot of people who, instead of growing corn, they'll just let it return to prairie, and then they get subsidized for that, like allowing the fields to lay fallow. So I wonder if it would be interesting for some of those farmers who are already thinking about doing that with their land to see that their land had been prairie as recently as like 1940 or 1950 and be then more inclined to return it to that state.
I work for a land trust, and one of our tools are conservation easements as well as anchor preserves. And so one, owning a piece of land and then working in that area to walk the talk of we bought into it and we're going to be part of the community. So we're not seen as some other in the area coming in and talking. And then the conservation easement allows at a national level a tax structure where the value of the property can be lowered for tax evaluation. And then that often helps farmers additionally, including letting it go back to prairie or letting it go fallow.
Thank you for that.
We have time. Yeah.
Hi, I'm trying to get a sense of the scale. How many different landowners are we talking about within the watershed? Is it hundreds? Is it thousands?
It's a little under 200.
So in theory, you could make 200 custom maps to engage with people.
Yep.
And show them where they are within this watershed and connect with them, at least as a way of engaging with them in the first place. Maybe they would think that's creepy, I don't know.
Thank you for that.
Do I have more? Okay, it's your turn to ask questions. She has time. All right, questions from the group? Going once? Going twice. All right, thank you so much. Thank you.